Hi, so my name is Jonah Murray, and I'm doing the Universal Remote project with Lucas Emerson for 383, and I will be demoing our C function, our T function, and our transmit functions. I have the remote to the TV right here, so it turns it on, turns it off, and to save a little bit of time, I just did the recording because it takes a second. So you come over here, we can count the number of half bits. So here, I can make this a little closer. So when I press C, we're going to wait for the amount of half bits. I've already did this for this remote, but it should be around 34. So there it goes, it's 34, and you can see I've already ran it a few times. So what we want to do there is with our learn function, which was done here, I think button 1 was the power button, button 2 was volume up, button 3 was volume down, and then the last was the input button. And so what we want to do is let our array for those be this big. We want it to be that big because we want to be able to output the correct amount of packets to the TV. So first I'm going to do our determine time period for the half bits, so that's T. So if I press a button now, it's going to decode all of these, so it brings in all of the numbers, and then we get our average low, our average 1 high, our average 0 high, and that is going to allow us to know the difference between all of our bits that we use in the T function and how we decode those. So now I'm going to do our transmit function. So if I press the 1 key, it should turn on the TV. There we go. Let me make sure that the IR LED is facing that. So now if I press 2, the volume should go up. Oops. Okay. One more time. Up.
I'm learning them from my mom.
Up.
The other day my husband told me,
okay, and then now I'm going to turn it down.
Or do you realize the impact that your great grandma had?
And then the input function.
Because if it wasn't for her,
again, with the input. And then lastly, just back to 1, power off. So that is our Universal Remote project. Shout out to David for helping us get this working. He was a lifesaver and really came through. So thanks to our great TA David. So our system takes a remote control packet through our IR sensor, which is connected to RC4. And first we run it through CCP1 that comes into here, and this is our C function. So I'm going to go on that first. It's one of the 2 functions that I'm going to talk about. So this is our C function. Our C function uses CCP1 in order to record changes in the rising and falling edges. What we want to do is we want to first clear the CCP1 flag using this right here. This is what we want to get rid of. And then whenever the IR pin get value is a 1, we record the first falling edge, and this sets ourselves up to continue the next edge. Our code then records the next rising edge using the following code. As you can see here, we check that the pin value is a 0, and then our timer 1 overflow has not occurred yet. After this, we increment a rising edge so that we know how many rising edges we should count. Our code then records the next falling edge using the opposite IR pin value here, and then we record a falling edge. The reason for this has overflowed occurred is because we want the user to be able to use any remote. And so whenever we're counting these, we want the user to not have to click something to get out of recording their remote value. So what they're going to do is they're going to click the remote, and then once the remote has sent all of its information, we're going to assume that whenever this timer overflow occurs that we're not transmitting anymore, and we're going to stop recording values for the user. That way they don't have to do it themselves. The amount of edges needed to occur will be taken, and we will use this for our learn function. That way we know how much we need to look for in order to build our arrays.
Hi, this is Emerson, and I will be discussing the T function that we programmed for our universal remote controller. So what the T function does is that it determines the duration of these 7 different bits from the IR data packet. So what we first had to do was count the number of edges, which we did in the C function. And then once we had the number of edges, we looped through the number of edges, and in that for loop, we waited for the ISR to trigger that there is a new pulse, and then when that did happen, we would take that new pulse time and put it into the array, and then reset the flag. And once we got all the pulse durations, we then set the 7 different bit durations depending on the pulse length and other factors.